Happy Halloween, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the podcast episode where we are going to talk all about garlic. We're going to talk about how to grow garlic, how to plant garlic, how to tend to garlic, how to harvest garlic, and we are going to answer your garlic growing questions. So thank you to everyone who submitted a question ahead of today's episode. We are going to organize the content for today by first sharing the 6 S's to success for growing garlic at home in any size space that you have. And then we are going to spend the second half of today's episode answering your questions. So I'm super happy that you've tuned in. I hope you have safe and wonderful plans for tonight. Maybe you're trick-or-treating with the kiddos, or maybe you're just staying in and maybe watching a scary movie or eating some popcorn, or I don't know. However you're planning to celebrate, I hope that garlic is part of your Halloween. Welcome to the Growing Space podcast. I'm your host, Farmer Erin, owner of The Patio Farmer, and I believe that no matter what size space you have, you can grow food at home. Tune in each week as I share my best tips, tricks, and encouragement for tending to homegrown edible plants. I am here to support your food growing journey. So let's just jump right in and talk about this fun little allium. Garlic is a member of the allium family, so it's a member of the lily family. Garlic's edible cousins are onions, of course, as well as leeks and shallots and chives, garlic chives. All of those edible plants belong to the same family. Like I mentioned at the top of the episode, today I'm going to share with you the 6 S's to success. A little bit of a tongue twister. I love a good alliteration around here. And then towards the end of the episode, we will get to all of your lovely questions that you submitted ahead of time. It was really fun and really helpful for me to hear your questions to help guide this content and guide the information that I am sharing with you today. That's one of my favorite things to do as a business owner and educator, is to hear from you all, from my audience, so that I can tailor the information that I'm sharing. So thank you for making this episode just super special. I've been using this format a lot recently to talk about specific crops and kind of give the highlights or the general overview for how to plant and how to tend for a specific crop in your space. So using the 6 S's will help guide our conversation today. And you may hear the 6 S's pop up in future episodes that I do on one particular crop. Oh, the first S is sun. Yep. And garlic, it doesn't need a whole lot of sun, but it does need consistent sun. About 6 hours of direct sunlight every day is going to be great for garlic. If you have more sunlight, that's great. There's no such thing as too much sunlight for your plants, but for garlic, you definitely want at least 6 hours of direct sun. Okay, so that's the first S. Super easy, super fast. Sun, garlic needs 6 hours. Space is our second S, and garlic is a fairly small plant, so we can plant it really closely together. I usually like to plant my garlic seed every 6 inches. So that should be your goal, is 1 garlic seed approximately every 6 inches. Sometimes you can plant them every 4 inches. You can space them out a little bit more and go like 8 to 10 inches. But generally, like 6 inches is a good ballpark, a good target for planting and for sowing. Well, our third S is soil. Now, when you're growing garlic, you want to have a well-draining soil. So if you're growing directly in the ground, you want to make sure that you've turned the soil, that you've amended it, that it's well-draining and allows all the little roots to sink down and grow and expand as they need to. Most likely, if you're growing in a raised bed or in a pot or container, then your soil is going to be store-bought. It's going to be a potting soil or potting mix. And that is great. I mean, that soil has the perfect amount of drainage for garlic. It's going to allow the roots to grow strong and produce big bulbs for you, which of course, is what we're after, right? We're after those big bulbs and roots of our garlic. Now, another thing with your soil before you plant your garlic is to make sure that your soil has the right amount of phosphorus in it. Now, phosphorus is one of our macronutrients for our plants. So all plants are going to need 3 macronutrients to grow and thrive. Those 3 macronutrients are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And each of those 3 nutrients helps to support a different part of the plant. So nitrogen, for example, it helps to feed, we talked about this last week when we were talking about cover crops. But nitrogen helps to feed the leafy green parts of the plant. It helps the plant photosynthesize. Phosphorus is what helps the plant grow strong root systems. Keep that in mind. Strong root systems are supported by phosphorus. Phosphorus also tells the plant to create a seed, which of course is found in fruit for a lot of plants. And then potassium is kind of like the multivitamin. It helps to promote plant rigidity and the plant's ability to hold on to heavy fruit. But for garlic, the macronutrient that we are most concerned about is phosphorus, of course, because we want to grow strong roots and strong bulbs. But most store-bought soil does not have a whole lot of phosphorus in it, or it does not have as much phosphorus as it does nitrogen. This falls on the grower to add phosphorus to the soil. The 2 most common sources of phosphorus that you can use are bone meal and rock phosphate. Now, bone meal is exactly what it sounds like. It is clean and sanitized, but crushed bone. Yeah. So if you are trying not to use animal byproducts, or maybe you are a vegetarian or vegan, and you're just not comfortable with using animal products in that way, or you're a dog mom or dog dad, dog parent, and I am speaking as a dog mom of 3, I steer clear as much as possible from animal-based soil amendments and plant food. As you might imagine, dogs enjoy bone meal, and I don't enjoy cleaning the mess. I typically go for more of the vegan, plant-based mineral products like rock phosphate. So rock phosphate is a source of phosphorus that's mineral-based. So it doesn't contain any animal byproduct. It is just minerals. And I love using that because my dogs don't bother. I keep a lot of rock phosphate available to use as I am planting and sowing throughout the year. And whenever I plant garlic, I always put a good amount of rock phosphate in the soil. 1 cup of either rock phosphate or bone meal per 4 square feet would be a great ratio to amend your soil before planting your garlic. Now, you can also use this ratio before you plant your other root vegetables like carrots, radish, beets, turnips, parsnips. Any root vegetable will also benefit greatly from having extra phosphorus in the soil. So that's the big thing to keep in mind with your soil. Your 3rd S for success. Our 4th S to success for growing garlic is season. Now, when we're talking about the season for growing garlic, this is really more of a planning consideration and something for you to keep in mind as you are thinking about how you want to use your space. Now, the season for growing garlic starts this time of year, right? The spooky season, right? You plant your garlic at the end of October. Happy Halloween. There's not much else whose ideal planting time is the end of October to mid-November. So you still have some flexibility if you want to plant some garlic this year. Don't feel like you're too late, especially if you are growing in the Southeast. Garlic, it's planted right before the first frost, literally days before our average first frost. And garlic takes a long time to grow. and it grows all the way through the rest of fall, all through winter, and through spring. You usually harvest your garlic at the end of May or at the beginning of June. Wherever you have your garlic planted, you won't have that space available until like early to mid-June. Just go ahead and plan on that. Now, I will also say garlic is one of those things that totally ruins you for store-bought garlic. It's just so much more flavorful than anything that you'll buy in the store. So yes, it takes a lot of time. It doesn't take a ton of space, but it ties up your space, right? But it's totally worth it, like in my opinion. It's one of my favorite things to grow. I love growing garlic. Every year I grow more and more garlic. And I'm just obsessed with it. Moving right along to our fifth S for success, seeding. Seed. So garlic seed is actually a garlic clove. Crazy. One clove of garlic will turn into one bulb of garlic. It's so cool. So when you're ready to seed garlic, you want to take your seed garlic bulbs and go out to your growing space. You want to make sure that your soil's all ready to go. You've added your phosphorus. It's all mixed in. And you know where you're going to plant everything. And then you want to go ahead and separate your cloves from the bulb. Now, this is something that I usually don't do ahead of time. I usually just take the full bulb out to my growing space and separate the cloves and then plant the cloves right away. And when you plant the clove, you want to make sure that you are planting the root end down and the stem end up. So as you're separating them from the bulb, just, keep in mind, it's fairly easy to do, but just keep in mind which end is the root end. That's the end with all the little root hairs. And which end is the stem end, or the kind of the more pointy end. You want to situate the clove in the soil with the root end down and the stem end up. Now make sure that you plant your garlic clove about half an inch to an inch below the soil. So you really kind of push it down in there and then cover it up nice and good and then water it. And once you do that, you are all set. You've seeded your garlic and you're ready to rock and roll. Congratulations. Okay, so our sixth S is supervision. Like garlic is a pretty low-key, pretty chill crop to grow. You can expect to see sprouts come up from your seeds, usually in about like a week or two after you plant. Now, when they first come up, it's going to be cold and we're not going to have a whole lot of sunlight, right? Because we're planting it at the end of October. Your garlic is going to stay pretty short for the first like 3 or 4 months that it's growing. So through the winter, if my garlic is somewhere between 6 and 12 inches tall, that is great. And it kind of hangs out at that height. You don't see a whole lot of growth, but your garlic should stay nice and bright green, even through the frost. So something else that you may choose to do in terms of supervising or tending to your garlic is mulching it. So adding a nice layer of leaf mulch. Yes, there you go. Great use for those leaves that fall from the trees this time of year. You can just pick up a handful of leaves and tuck them in around your little garlic shoots as mulch. And that will keep them nice and snuggled, nice and insulated, and help keep moisture in and around those roots as they grow throughout the cold season. Something else to keep in mind as you are growing garlic is knowing what kind of garlic you're growing. So there's 2 main categories of garlic varieties that we can grow at home. The first is hard neck garlic and the second is soft neck garlic. Now, the main difference between these 2 types of garlic is how they produce a stem, or if they produce a stem. So hard neck garlic is going to produce in the very center of the bulb and of the plant. It's going to produce this very thick, hard, almost woody center, and that's its flowering stalk. The big thing to keep in mind is that in the spring, as that hard neck starts to grow and mature and the plant attempts to flower, you want to cut that woody stem. It's called a scape, kind of like escape, but scape. So SCAPE, it's a garlic scape. As that grows, you want to trim that because the plant is sending all of its energy into producing a flower. But in doing so, it's borrowing that stored energy in its roots to bloom. So instead of allowing that stem to produce a flower, you want to trim it so that it shoots all of the energy back down into the roots and you get an even bigger bulb. You want to wait until you see it curl, and it will curl. It'll be really cute. It'll look kind of like a pig's tail. It's going to curl and it's going to get this really pointy end to it. And once it curls and makes like almost a full circle, then you want to trim it. Now, if you're growing a soft neck garlic, that garlic plant is not going to create that woody, stalky stem in the middle of the plant. It's just going to produce nice, tall, green garlic leaves. But soft neck garlic is what you can use to make those beautiful like garlic braids when you're drying your garlic and you've got like just this massive, beautiful braid of garlic. Soft neck garlic is best for doing that. So part of supervision as well is harvesting. So once you cut those scapes, you want to give your garlic about, like 2 to 3 weeks, and then you can harvest. You can always, if you're not sure if your garlic is ready to harvest, you can always pull a test. So just pull a little baby out and see what it's looking like, if it's the right size. So typically when you harvest garlic, you want somewhere between like a golf ball size bulb and a tennis ball size. Tennis ball is going to be, pretty impressive. Like if I get golf ball size garlic bulbs when I harvest, I'm super pleased. That concludes the 6 S's to success for growing garlic. So we talked about sun, space, soil, season, seed, and supervision for garlic. We're going to take just a quick little break, and then we are going to jump to all of your wonderful questions. This podcast is sponsored by Plant Club by the Patio Farmer. Plant Club by the Patio Farmer is a monthly subscription service I started in 2020. It's a membership-based opportunity to take your growing journey to the next level. There are 4 different membership options for you to consider, so you get to decide the amount and kind of support that's right for you. All Plant Club members receive access to my online community through a platform called Circle. And having access to this platform allows members to share pictures, ask questions, celebrate harvest, and get to know each other. Plant Club members also have access to free seeds each month, along with information on how to plant and tend to their crops with seeding instructions and downloadable resources from the Patio Farmers Resource Library. Membership starts at just $14 a month. Join Plant Club today by visiting my website, thepatiofarmer.com/membership. Now, on to your garlic questions. So the first question that came in is about growing garlic that you buy from the store. So just going to the grocery store and buying a bulb of garlic, can you plant that and grow it at home? Now, the short answer to that question is, of course you can. Yeah, you can totally plant garlic that you buy from the grocery store. But just because you can plant it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to give you the best yield or the best harvest. Just a little insight into grocery store produce. Most of the produce that we purchase at the store is a hybrid. So hybrids have some sort of genetic modification, not necessarily a bad modification, but usually they are modified by the grower for a specific purpose or intended outcome. So in the case of garlic, it could be that they produce really nice fleshy bulbs or really consistent clove shape or, whatever the grower is going for, or that they store really well, for example. So hybrids actually are not fertile. The variety itself does not exist in nature. So as they grow, this can impact how much they produce for you and how much they yield, because the generation or the plant that comes from the two crosses, the two parents, it typically is sterile. Your best bet would be to use some seed garlic. Now, there's lots of different seed companies out there that produce seed garlic. And I did a pre-order for seed garlic earlier this year. Unfortunately, I am all sold out of the seed garlic that I purchased. It was a big hit, and the bulbs, they just flew from my stash, which is great. I love that. But I will put some links in today's show notes with some other sources for purchasing garlic seed. Now, something to keep in mind for next year is that most seed suppliers run out of garlic seed pretty quickly. A lot of people place their orders months in advance. Luckily, I have found two very reputable, very trustworthy seed sources who still have garlic and are still shipping garlic seed. So like I said, I will put those in the show notes. But if at all possible, use seed garlic versus just garlic that you buy in the store. You're going to be waiting months for your harvest. And while the plant may look totally fine and totally healthy and like it's doing what it needs to be doing above the soil, you want to be confident that it's producing how it's supposed to be producing and how you're expecting it to produce in the soil. And using seed garlic is the best way to do that. So, great question. Love it. Thank you so much. Okay, so another question that came in from y'all was trying to understand how to dry or cure or save your garlic to be able to enjoy year round. This is something that's really easy to do at home as well to extend the usability of your harvest. I will say that when you grow garlic at home, you're really given a treat. You're able to enjoy fresh garlic or green garlic. Now, if you've never had fresh garlic or green garlic, I would highly recommend that you give it a try, at least with one of your fresh garlic bulbs in the spring. Use it while it's still green. The garlic flavor, it tends to be a little sweeter, a little bit more mild, and it's just a fun new way of experiencing something that we are super used to, but have just kind of like a one-sided view of what garlic should be like. Once you harvest all of your garlic and you want to dry it or cure it, a couple things are going to happen through this process. As a quick definition, curing garlic is the practice of drying out the outer shells of the garlic bulb. So you keep it intact, but you dry out the outer shells of the garlic bulb to help keep it shelf stable for year-round eating and enjoying. As we cure garlic, we are also strengthening and concentrating the garlic flavor. In order to dry and cure your garlic, you take all of your harvested garlic plants and you want to keep them whole. So you keep the stems on, you keep the leaves on, and you rinse off all the soil. You can use a hose and a sprayer for this, but you want to rinse off all of the soil and allow them to air dry. Then you want to take, I usually use like a cookie sheet, or if you have like an empty counter or just like a flat surface in your laundry room or in your garage, you just need a flat surface and you lay all of your garlic plants out in a single layer. Now they can be close, they can be touching a little bit, and allow them to sit out of direct sunlight, somewhere kind of cool, for somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks. And in that time, the outer shell is going to turn that papery white like we're used to seeing from store-bought garlic. Once the outer shells are nice and dry and papery, then you can cut the stems. So like I said, usually after like 4 to 6 weeks, I will cut those stems and then you can store it in your pantry. You can store it on the countertop. So my laundry room is where I like to do a lot of my curing. And that's usually where I just leave my garlic stash for the year. And whenever I need some garlic in the kitchen, I'm cooking up something tasty and I want some garlic, I just pop out and grab a bulb of garlic to use. So that is how you cure and dry hard neck garlic. If you grew soft neck garlic, you can braid the leaves of the bulbs together and hang them, and they can cure while they're hanging. So the practice of braiding garlic is actually a way of curing the garlic. Great question. I'm so glad you asked it. And I love curing garlic. It's fantastic. Okay, so another question that came in was how to determine what variety is best for our region, speaking mainly towards the southeastern United States or just the southern US. I'm going to share a link to a couple of different resources in today's show notes for specific garlic varieties for the South and the Southeast. The main concern that we would have with growing garlic in the South is just choosing a heat-tolerant variety. Now, if you pre-ordered garlic from me, no worries. All of those were heat-tolerant and totally great for planting in our climate. But if you did not order from me and you're curious, like what garlic varieties would be great for our climate, like I mentioned, I will share those links in today's show notes, but just a few varieties to call out. For hardneck varieties would be California Whites. German Extra Hardy is great for southern growing. Early Portuguese. Let's see, some of the other ones could be elephant garlic. Now that is technically a leek, but it grows like these massively beautiful, like unparalleled in size cloves. It's a really fun variety to grow, as well as Achillium red softneck garlic, which is just a fantastic softneck variety if you're interested in doing some of the braiding that I was talking about. So those would all be excellent varieties to try growing if you're growing in the South. And don't forget to check those links that I mentioned I would put in the show notes. So as we wrap up today's episode on garlic, I hope that you have gotten all of your garlic questions answered, or at least the foundations for garlic growing. Thanks again to everyone who sent in questions. We did have a couple of repeat or like similar questions that came in, but I hope that the information that I shared was helpful to you. If you do have any follow-up questions, or you listen to this episode and you're like, oh gosh, but I wonder, like, what about this or what about that about growing garlic? You can always reach out to me and ask any questions that come to mind. I love questions about growing food and I love answering them. You can email me at thegrowing.spacepodcast@gmail.com. I'm also going to be doing another episode this fall where I would love to hear specific questions from you. So if you enjoyed today's content and hearing specific things that other listeners wanted to know, I am going to be doing an episode all about home composting in probably next month or in December. And I would love to do similar formats. So kind of give an overview of getting started composting at home and then take some composting questions from you all. So if you have specific things that you are wondering about related to composting and you want me to answer them on this podcast like I did today about garlic, then please send them over to thegrowing.spacepodcast@gmail.com. That's an email that I created specifically for this podcast. So any of those compost related questions, just send them to thegrowing.spacepodcast@gmail.com. I will link that in the show notes. And you are still here. It's the end of the episode. Thanks for listening to the full episode today. If you've listened to other episodes of this podcast before, then you know that at the end of every episode, I share a little fun fact or a pro tip. And this week, I just have a fun little story to share. I don't know if you all have seen the videos floating around like Instagram or TikTok of people who have backyard chickens, and they take a pumpkin and they scratch a face or like a pumpkin carving onto the front of the pumpkin, and then they put it in their chicken run. and their chickens like peck at the pumpkin where it's been scratched and carve the pumpkin. So I was feeling really inspired, and we have a couple pumpkins that are sitting like by our front door, and I do have backyard chickens. I've got 8 beautiful laying hens that give us delicious, nutritious eggs year round. And I decided yesterday, I was like, oh, heck, the leaves are falling. Halloween is this week. I am going to give this a try. So I did. And it's really cute. Like I just came inside from checking on the pumpkin this morning, and the girls are just having such a blast. They're pecking at it, and I don't think that they're really following like the guidelines and the face structure that I was trying to give my jack-o'-lantern, but they're having fun and they're enjoying their little snack. And I am just also having so much fun watching them carve up this pumpkin. So I did also post a reel this morning of me. I recorded myself, like as you do, as these, as us content creators and small business owners do. We record ourselves doing all kinds of crazy things for our audiences. So I did post a reel this week of me giving the chickens this little pumpkin. So if you want to see my chickens and this work in progress that is the chicken carved jack-o'-lantern, you can follow me on Instagram. Just at the patio farmer is my handle. Give me a follow. You can see my chickens. My little puppy dog June is also in the video. She's so sweet. If you have backyard chickens, maybe you could give it a try as well. I would love to see pictures. I would love to see videos of your chickens enjoying your pumpkin. So anyway, pumpkins make great chicken snacks. So do watermelons. Next week, I am starting a mini series, and I'm going to show you the books on my bookshelf, or talk about all the books on my bookshelf. We'll do 2 parts, and next week will be part 1, all about the books on my bookshelf, why I have them. They're all reference books, all nonfiction, all about growing food or homesteading. And we will go through them together, and I will let you know what I find most helpful about them, which one's my favorite. I'll give another plug for Plant Club here at the end of this episode. All Plant Club members who are members in November will be entered to win a stack of books from my bookshelf that are my absolute favorite. So I've got 4 books that are going to go into a Plant Club raffle this month, and one lucky Plant Club member will win a free stack of these books that are my faves. If you are on the fence or you're thinking about joining Plant Club, November would be a fantastic time for you to do so, especially if you want to get in on that raffle for free books. First of all, who doesn't love free things? And who doesn't love books, especially books about plants? So if you're interested in joining Plant Club, you can do that on my website, thepatiofarmer.com/membership. And if you have any questions about which membership level is right for you, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. I hope you have a wonderful Halloween and happy garlic planting, and we will see you next week for all the books. I'm so excited, you guys. I love books.